Welcome back to Slaughtered Sheep, the Law Dog series. We have John Daly of Daly Defense back on with us. And in this part 2, we plan on talking about the business of criminal justice and the various businesses that operate in and out of the criminal justice system. We're going to talk about the Minnesota marijuana law that was passed last year and the impact that will have on the state and businesses. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about how AI and technology impact the law practice in general and criminal law specifically. And we're going to talk about controlling that criminal impulse that gets people in trouble and small business owners. And with that, John, let's dive back in. Let's move on away from the emotional part of it a little bit and psychological. Let's talk about the business end of criminal justice, okay? Because criminal justice is a business.
No doubt.
It's a big business, right?
Yeah.
And what I want to talk about are the private businesses that interact with the criminal justice system. Now, the obvious one is, of course, law firms and lawyers. They're front and center. But we also have bail bondsmen, private investigators, we have treatment centers, we have psychiatric businesses, et cetera. Talk about your experience in dealing with these businesses. What is it like?
Yeah.
And what do they do?
Okay, let's start. When you get arrested, you got to get out of jail. So you have bail bondsmen.
Correct.
Right? Now, bail bondsmen provide a very valuable service, and they're statutorily capped at what they can charge people. It's 10%.
Okay. Got it.
The judges, the prosecutors, the defense lawyers are the defendants, law enforcement. They all participate in the existence of these bail bonds companies. Here's how bail bonds work. Judge sets $50,000 bail for you to get out of jail while your case is pending. You don't have $50,000 to give to the court to hold until your case is over with. But the bail bond company does, and they're insured. So then you have the insurance company that insures the surety.
In case they go under or insolvent.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they're making money on it.
Yeah.
Now the bail bonds company will have you give them 10%. So that's $5,000.
So meaning that if I want a $50,000 bail, if I want that bail to be met, I have to either myself or my family has to write a check to them or credit card
check.
But either way, they're getting that money up front.
They're getting $5,000 up front.
Got it.
And then they post your 50. When your case is sentenced, the court mails the bail bonds company a check for $50,000, but your $5,000 doesn't come back to you.
So in other words, when bail bondsman posts that bail, they're sending 50 G's to the government.
I'm not certain of this because I'm not a bondsman, but I'm pretty sure nowadays
there's like a credit.
I think when you're a licensed bond company, the counties give you a credit so you don't actually have to.
There's an account. They're tracking your account.
Now, if the bond's forfeited, that company has to pay up.
Yeah.
And I actually do hearings for a bail bonds company in counties that actually make them appear in Anoka, Wright County, Sherburne County.
Got it.
And so when somebody skips on the bond, what that bond company has to do is prove to the court that, hey, I've sent a team out to try and locate this person, to bring them into custody and to bring them back to court.
Yeah.
And sometimes the court will give them their money back.
Got it.
But they come for you.
Yeah.
That's where you get Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Okay.
So that's bail bonds.
Yep.
Then you have hospitals, treatment centers, psychiatric wards, and all of the professionals that exist within those places. I found that I have the best chemical dependency evaluator in the world. I'm not even going to share his name because I don't want the other lawyers to take him.
There you go.
But he's fair.
Yep.
And he's not there to make anybody except himself. You pay him for the evaluation. He actually looks at what's wrong with you. If you need it, he gives it to you. If you don't, he doesn't.
Got it.
And so I don't firsthand see the abuse of chemical dependency evaluations just filling beds in treatment centers for profit. But I'd say this, I don't care if they are. The more people that learn about the 12 steps and getting sober, the better. As far as I'm concerned, even if they are making money off insurance companies, I don't care.
Yeah.
I think everybody should have to read the big book once in their life, just for spiritual fitness and ethics.
In fact, as a plug, I don't know, I told you to see this movie. I don't know if you ever did, but you won't get far on foot.
Yeah.
It's Jonah Hill.
Yep. I did watch it.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep.
If you or anybody have a family member that is chemically dependent, that's just a must see. Entertaining, hilarious, just inspirational to the nth degree.
Well, the toughest people to get to come to terms with their chemical dependency issues are the successful white people out in the suburbs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't want, it's not them. You know,
Yeah, no.
they use all the people in the inner city as an example of why
Yeah.
they're fine.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of these people from the inner city that come in, they're like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic
Yeah.
for sure.
Correct.
You know,
Because they live around it. It's not hidden as much.
it's easier for them to find humility.
Got it. John, I want to move into a situation where we hope none of our listeners encounter, but it's within the realm of possibility, and that's called the act of getting arrested. This is really the first step in that criminal justice system process. So, talk to the listeners about the process of getting arrested,
Sure.
getting arraigned, the whole walk everybody through the steps, but also talk about you're not here to give legal advice. It's not why we have you here, but you can give some tips, if you will, to our listeners that if they find themselves getting arrested, what should they do? What should they not do?
Yeah.
Help us out a little bit here.
Yeah. I think more people need to hear this. Number one, you're going to get out of jail in a day or two. Number two, you are not going to talk a cop out of arresting you. Okay. You're legally obligated to provide your identification. You should be polite. You should do that.
There we go. Nice.
Anything you have to say, you can say through your attorney later.
Got it.
They are not asking you questions in a normal conversational sense. They are trying to meet the elements of a statute to convict you of a crime. Every question they ask, they do not care how you are. They do not feel bad for you. Even if they do feel bad for you, they still don't care. They're not there to hurt you, but they are there to convict you.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
from the outset.
Yeah.
And then what they're really good at doing for small petty crimes is when they see they don't have the threshold to arrest you, they act like they're cutting you a break. So that next time you tell them everything thinking you can get that again. It's all stuff that they're specifically trained on.
Wow.
They take classes on it up at St. Cloud.
Yeah.
And I've learned all this by listening to them talk about their training and experience in court. I
Got
mean,
it.
nothing is genuinely human about your interaction with a police officer
Yeah,
that's
please.
investigating a crime. Now, if you call them for emergency purposes, that's a different story.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
But if they start the interaction with you for investigatory purposes,
Yeah.
you literally should say nothing, and you should immediately tell them that you'd like a lawyer present before you answer any questions.
Yeah.
Because then if they ask you a question, it's not coming in. There's more people sitting in jail for what they said than what they did. You will get out of jail. You will go, if it's the weekend, you will see a judge on Monday.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
Wednesday, you will see a judge Thursday at 11.
Yeah.
And they have to give people charged with first-degree murder bail. So they're going to give you bail.
Got it.
And
Wow.
so what you
Good
do
tip.
is you find a good lawyer, you write down their cell phone number, and you put it in your pocket, in your wallet, or you
Yeah.
shove the other stuff.
Sure.
Because they'll let you call your lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm. Do they have to let you call your lawyer?
Well,
if you say, hey, I get it, officer, but I really want to talk to my lawyer right now. I want to call him.
They have to let you call them sometime during the process.
Okay.
They don't have to let you call them while they're putting handcuffs on.
Got
They
it.
don't have to read you your rights either. The one thing that I found most of my clients don't understand, Miranda rights. All that means, if they don't read it to you, is that if you were detained and being investigated for a crime, anything you said is not admissible against you in court. It is not a way to get your case dismissed.
Got it. Yeah.
It is not
Yeah.
something they have to do. They can choose to not read you your rights
But anything you say will get thrown out.
as long as
Right.
you're detained and being investigated.
Yeah.
But let's say that there's a dead body in the street and you got a gun in your hand. It doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So go ahead. Don't read them their rights. They still got other evidence.
Got it. We've touched upon this on a number of the questions. We talked about the impulse wolf. You gave a very succinct answer, which I absolutely love. Stay away from drugs and alcohol. Live a religious life. Walk in your faith. But I want to talk about some other tips beyond those two that you think that might be useful to our clients. I'm talking about things like self-meditation, just behavioral tips that don't really involve abstaining from drugs and alcohol or reading the Bible, but are more just maybe self-help psychological tools that if Will starts getting in my face and making me angry, I want something I can arm myself with mentally to just say, hey, I'm going to let it go. We can deal with this later when our emotions aren't so high.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, because clearly your clients would have loved to have some of those, right?
Yeah. I think number one, ego is a big problem, right? And I think we all have to admit to ourselves we have an ego. And
Yep.
then I think the other thing is that everybody wants to point the finger at somebody else for something that goes wrong. And the truth is it's your fault, right? Every time I don't like something, I blame myself. And that's taken me so far in life.
Self-accountability.
Self-accountability.
Yep.
It's not Will's fault. It's my fault.
Yeah,
Will's
got it.
pissed off because I didn't figure out what he needed. And we agreed to some sort of symbiotic relationship
Yeah.
where his expectations aren't my problem. And I hope Will's over there thinking, man, I shouldn't be mad right now. This is my fault.
Yeah.
But I can't let Will and his anger send me to a place where I'm reactive and want to point a finger at him because it's not productive.
Yeah.
I can choose to terminate the relationship.
Yep.
Anytime you're not in control of your emotions, bad things happen. And I would rather have a life of a flat line than lows of not being in control of myself.
Correct.
Right. And no life will be flat either, by the way. But you're guaranteed to
Managing those peaks and valleys to an nth degree.
yeah, and you still get the peaks. You just don't get the valleys if you're willing to be accountable to yourself.
So those are great tips. Managing your ego, not always blaming somebody if they're mad at you or wanting to lash out back at them. Maybe try to find out why they're mad at you and do some introspection. Let's move on. We're covering a lot of great topics here. We could do podcasts on any one of these topics alone, but I want to cover a fair amount of ground before we wrap up.
Sure.
And I know you got a lot of clients out there that need your help. So
I do have to meet with like 4 people today.
So we're going to cover, we don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but it's the legalization of marijuana in Minnesota, one of the most liberal pot laws in the country. I'm not a big fan of the legalization of marijuana. Does my opinion matter? To the people of the state of Minnesota, not so much. However, there absolutely is a criminal impact on this. And what do you see the overall impact being on the citizens of this state, the fact that this is being legalized?
In my early life, I used a lot of marijuana. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. I totally get why the people that use it, I don't think it's in their best interest. But at the same time, the only time I've ever seen somebody in my office for marijuana, it's because it was illegal. It's not because they were smoking marijuana, killing somebody in a car, hitting their wife, and they might have to watch their weight. They sit there, they eat some food and get too much sleep. I think it's actually more positive. Law enforcement was using marijuana to over-police people in high-density residential zones. And when you're low income in the city, it's already hard enough to try your best and get somewhere. And when you're 19 years old and have 4 drug convictions, good luck.
Yeah.
So it really was an oppressive tool. Now, but having said that, marijuana applies to everything I said before about running a small business.
Yes.
But I wouldn't let that bother you outside of the realm of what you need for your business. Meaning you have every right to hire somebody. You can't outright say, look, you're not hired because you use marijuana. But what I'm saying is, as the owner of your business, what type of employee you want to bring in, right? I personally wouldn't want my paralegal to be getting stoned. But having said that, I think it's great that law enforcement can't use it as a tactic to over police and rack up charges for young people in the inner city that can't then get ahead.
Fair enough. From a perspective of a criminal defense lawyer, spot on. And I could see that. And in the Star Tribune, you see these articles on a monthly, sometimes weekly basis, the inordinate prosecutions of BIPOC people due to marijuana, lengthy incarcerations. Is it fair, et cetera? That's definitely more of a societal question. From a small business owner standpoint, I think about my clients. I have a lot of contractors. Guys that have employees that are driving Bobcats on steep hills. They're operating front-end loaders. Just even a wheelbarrow full of bricks, you can kill somebody.
And I got bad news for your contractors. Half those guys are up operating those machines all the time because See, I've seen enough construction workers in my office and heard their stories. And I'll tell you what, those contractors would be really uncomfortable if they found out how many of those guys were messed up.
I hope for your sake that that's a little bit of an exaggeration, or I mean, I hope for my client's sake, but yeah, make no mistake about it. Marijuana use is extremely pervasive.
Here's the issue your
We
clients
know
face. If I were your clients, I would institute a drug testing policy. And then the problem is they're going to be shorthanded on the job site.
And most of them do. The ones that are big enough, they do have drug testing. And yeah, that's how it affects small businesses, no doubt about it. Let's just jump into drunk driving, DUI. My title on this is called Get an Effing Uber.
Yeah.
Is there any excuse for any human being that's within the four corners of the United States to not take an Uber if they've had too much to drink instead of getting behind the wheel? Or leave their car, get a ride home. The consequences of getting a DWI. Maybe we should start there.
So the problem we have is we live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And so these people go out to the bar.
Yeah.
And it's 2 a.m. and there's 1,000 people leaving the bar.
Yeah.
And there's 3 Ubers and they're not downtown Minneapolis, right? So like this bar in Lakeville, Babes, right? They got 300 people there on a Friday. And at 2 a.m., there's 3 Ubers that are around.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come, they're not going back.
Yeah. Got it.
So then you have these people that are like, shit, do I walk 3 miles home, 5 miles home at negative 20 degrees?
Yeah.
No, I got to drive. And then on top of it, they're drunk. And when you're drunk, driving seems like a good idea. So when you say, is there no excuse? I see how it happens. I totally get why people do it. It's a stupid thing to do. What's more stupid? Thinking that you got to go get shit-faced at a bar.
There we go.
Right? I go to the bar all the time.
Yeah.
I go to the bar till 1 a.m. I shoot pool at the bar. I have a Red Bull. I have a water. I have a pizza. I put on music that I want to play. I dance to it. I love going to big gatherings of people. I love going to the bar. And I have more fun now not drinking than I did. But back to this. If you're going to get a drink and get drunk, you should schedule a ride home with a friend.
There we go.
You can always do more.
Be an organized drunk if you're going to be a drunk. Yeah. So let's talk about social media. I see it all the time as just a civilian reading articles about people getting arrested. And what's the first thing the cop says? This gangbanger, this person was bragging about it. Not only did they assault this guy, steal his money, steal his wallet, carjack him, but they bragged about it on social media. Talk about social media and how stupid people are, because that's a form of talking, right? That's like talking to the cop, except it's in writing and it's forever.
Yeah. So I've seen every form of written communication be used against people. Look, if we're really trying to get away with crimes, you should think about those old mafia movies where they met at the park and sat on a bed of truck, because that's the only sure shot way to do it. But forget social media, texting.
Yeah.
There's no context to your text. It's open for lawyers on both sides to argue that it meant this or it meant that. Yeah. If I tell you the bats fly in October, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
Am I talking about the playoffs or am I talking about Halloween? That's the problem with texting. That's the problem with social media.
Yeah.
On top of it, you got a big picture. You're a felon. You can't have a gun, and you're sitting there on Facebook with a picture of you with a pistol. What are you doing? Or putting it on Snapchat. You're toast. So if I were you, I would post your kids. I would say happy Thanksgiving and happy birthday to people.
Yeah.
And when somebody ever wants to talk to you about something important or something contentious, don't respond to their text message.
Yeah.
Say, call me. And in addition, if somebody accuses you of something, even if it's true via text, deny it. Even if you are going to willingly talk to them on the phone and you can say to them, look, I am not going to respond to any of this in text message. Yeah. I will deny anything that you accuse me of in text message. Now, if you want to talk about this face to face, we can.
Because some of it could be true, but not all of it, et cetera, et cetera.
People set people up.
Yeah, correct. Let's move ahead here. I want to cover a few more topics and then we're going to let you go and we're going to let you get to your clients. So I want to talk about the changes in the criminal justice system, changes in criminal law.
Yeah.
Since you first got into this with some 15, 16 years ago, but even further back, what are the changes that, say, for instance, when Dad was practicing and he did do some criminal cases.
Yeah.
What are the big changes between what he was doing and you were doing now?
Technology. After the pandemic, we were appearing in court over Zoom.
Correct.
I was wearing basketball shorts and a sport coat and my kitchen table. Sometimes I wouldn't even meet the clients, right? It was just all electronic. I like being in court. I think preliminary hearings can be done over Zoom, but I think that when the rubber is going to meet the road, I think you need to go to the courthouse. That's the biggest difference in the last few years.
Sure.
The other thing we have is I think we have more understanding of mental health and chemical dependency. I think that if you're willing to admit the existence of a problem and work on it, I think courts are more willing to give you that first and second chance
Nice.
as opposed to
it.
1985.
Got it.
And the ability for lawyers to operate more efficiently. So with laptops and dad had typewriters. It cost him $9,000 for a fax machine. You had to mail everything.
Yeah.
I file everything electronically. I can sign it electronically. I barely have to use paper.
So the days of lugging an oversized briefcase and legal boxes into a trial, those days are pretty much over. You could do everything on your iPad and project it up onto a screen. Pretty much.
Most of the time,
Most of the time.
I bring a notepad in a leather binder. I print off, because I like to have paper copies for my client. I print off whatever document is relevant. I stick it in there and I bring my phone.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm in trial, I have a laptop up because you got to have exhibits for the jury on the big TVs that they can see. But sometimes I just bring my phone.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Real quick, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but every client or every guest that comes in here, I'm going to ask them about AI and Chat GPT.
Sure.
I mean, it's just impacted everything. I'm curious as to whether or not it's actually has impacted criminal law at all, because it seems like it would be a little less susceptible to that.
So what ChatGPT hasn't figured out yet, and they're trying to say they have, I did some tests on it. I was like, give me the top cases in Minnesota on this issue.
Yeah.
Some of them were cases on the issue that didn't cover the topic. Some of the cases weren't real.
That's scary.
But what ChatGPT is good for is email to the prosecutor, this prosecutor named, that says, you haven't given me this or that, and I want it.
Sure.
And then you copy and paste it into an email and
Yeah.
administrative
Got
stuff.
it,
But
got
yeah, look, you want somebody to, the whole thing about being a prosecutor or a defense lawyer is you're taking a set of facts, you're learning about your client, you're learning about the situation, and then you're interpreting the facts in a way that benefits them through case law, which states how facts are to be construed by courts.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want the lawyer to go through that exercise on your case.
Yeah.
Even if ChatGPT did it better, they're not going to say it in court.
Yeah.
Right. So I just don't do it. I just do the exercise.
Yeah. I look at my profession, as you argue, well, accountants are going to be 5 years, not going to be one human accountant left. Absolute bullshit. You know what AI has done for my firm, my industry? It's created more work, because I get clients coming in, they try to rely too much on this AI and they get in trouble.
Yeah.
And their books are an absolute disaster. So it takes a real human to sort through all this.
Yeah.
This is the best answer I've gotten from everybody I've talked to thus far. AI, ChatGPT, it's a tool, powerful tool, amazing tool, but it's a tool. It's not going to run your business. It's not going to replace you.
It's not a substitute.
John, I think we're about ready to wrap this up. I guess before we do this, my brother, my criminal defense brother, are there any last words you want to leave our listeners with? Clearly, we want them to stay out of trouble. We don't want them crossing the line. So maybe just a word on that. But if they do, maybe you could just give them a little bit of comfort that it's not going to be the end of the world.
Look, if you get in trouble, give me a call, 612-298-7136, and everything will be fine. But I'll leave you with this. There is no merit in being superior to your fellow man. The only honor lies in being superior to the former version of yourself. So if you just focus on that, everything will be fine.
Nice. Very nice. I love it. There we go. Thank you very much, John. Till next time, my brother.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.